Good evening. The City Council and LRA Board meeting for Riverbank today, February 28th, 2023, is now in session. It is 6 p.m. Please rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Please remain standing.
Let us pray. Father, Lord, we just come before you this evening, and we're so grateful and thankful for this great city of Riverbank, city of Akron. Lord, your word says that apart from you, we can do nothing. But if we remain in you, you will remain in us, and we will bear much fruit. So, Lord, we lean into you tonight. Father, we thank you for this great council and this city staff, Lord, that are before us tonight. As we do business, Lord, I thank you for the platform that we have to share concerns, Lord, and that at the end of the day, God, we will walk out of here knowing that if all of us do our part, we will continue to be that city of a great place to live. And Lord, we give you all the glory and honor and praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Uribe.
Here.
Councilmember Barbara Martinez.
Here.
Councilmember Jones Cruz.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hernandez. Mayor O'Brien.
Here. There'll be no changes to the agenda tonight. If any staff or council member have a conflict of interest, please declare that conflict at this time. Seeing none, we're going to start with presentations. Item 7.1. Presentation Stanislaus Art Council, Heartland Creative Core Grants Program. Hello,
Hi, thanks for having me.
welcome for being.
My name's Austin Ramito. I'm a project manager with Stanislaus Arts Council. We're the official state local partner for the California Arts Council for Stanislaus County. And so we do promotion and advocacy of all forms of art here in Stanislaus County. And today I'm going to be sharing some info on a grant program coming to our county. It's bringing $1.8 million in job creation funds for artists in our county. So I want to share with the community of Riverbank just some background information on it so that all the amazing artists here in Riverbank can apply for it. So just some background, like I mentioned, we're the state local partner to the California Arts Council for Stanislaus County, and we're going to be participating as an art agency partner in this grant program coming to our community. So some background info on it. In 2021, the state of California set aside $60 million for art projects. It was a part of their COVID relief package. And the state basically said, hey, we're going to set aside a $60 million bucket to fund art projects, and we're going to pick 14 organizations to administer the money. And so Stanislaus County, Tuolumne County, and Merced County got together and formed the Heartland Creative Core program through the United Way of Merced. So the United Way of Merced nonprofit organization applied on our behalf, and the state gave them $4.2 million to administer for art projects. And based on population, Stanislaus Arts Council will be administering 1.8 million of it. So it's 1.8 million in grants. It's designed to create jobs for our local artists and help engage artists in public work. It's open to any artist, cultural worker, arts organization, and social service organizations. And it can be of any level of expertise or discipline. So we're talking visual arts, performing arts, photography, videography. They're not really defining what art is in this instance. If you believe that you have a project that's arts focused, you can apply for it. You'll be able to get up to $150,000 as an individual and $300,000 as a nonprofit organization. And it's going to fund projects relative to one of 4 focus areas, those being public health awareness messages to stop the spread of COVID, water, energy conservation, climate mitigation, and emergency preparedness, civic engagement, including election participation, and social justice and community engagement. It's also designed to uplift new communities that haven't maybe received state grant money in the past. And so one way they'll be doing this with this grant is referencing it with we call it HPI. It's called the Healthy Places Index, and it rates communities based on a number of factors. You can go to healthyplacesindex.org, and there you'll be able to view a map, and it divides the state by census tract. And you can go there and see the ratings of each census tract based on their criteria. So it will favor projects in the lowest quartile of the Healthy Places Index, but it is open to all communities, but it will prioritize projects in those areas. And so a general timeline, our application is open. It opened February 15th, and artists and organizations can apply through April 14th. And we'll review those applications and make awards on May 1st. And if we didn't give out the full 1.8 million, we'll open up for a phase 2, and that will be May 1st through June 16th. And then we will give out the remaining funds by July 1st. And all of your projects have to be executed by July 1st of next year. So that's some general background information. I know it was kind of a lot, but we encourage residents of Riverbank to get in touch with us if they need help with the application process, or if they have questions on, the nitty gritty. So they can get in touch with me by emailing info@stanislausarts.org. We also have all the grant info on our website, and then you can apply online at heartlandcreativecorps.org. So that's all the background info I have for you, but I can answer questions if you have any.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Just kind of curious how many submissions you have as of now.
I don't have that info yet because they're kind of being funneled through the United Way of Merced.
Okay.
And then once the application closes, United Way of Merced will give us all of the applications from Stanislaus County.
Okay. And I hope somebody's reached out to like maybe Love Stanislaus County. A lot of the cities participate in like Love Riverbank, and that would be a cool little project to have. I know we have a ton of murals and locations that we can do something really neat here.
Yeah.
So if you haven't connected with them, I'd love to talk to you afterwards and get you that information.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Scoring criteria published?
Yes. So if you go to heartlandcreativecorps.org, there's a PDF of guidelines there, and it also details how each project is scored.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Much.
Look forward to being awarded a lot of those funds. All right, thank you. Public comment at this time, member of the public may comment on items not appearing on the agenda within the subject matter jurisdiction. Individual comments will be a maximum of 3 minutes. Time cannot be yielded. Public comment, please.
Good evening, everybody. Council members, Mayor O'Brien. My name is Sid Halterman. I'm a resident here of Riverbank, currently in the Crossroads area. My wife and I are purchasing a home in the new Bruin Heights subdivision on the east side of town, and that's been a topic, as I understand, of interest to this council and the staff of the city for a while now. As you know, the subdivision's been delayed time and again since it started. We were originally slated to close escrow in late October, maybe early November. It's the last day of February now. Today was supposed to close escrow yet again, and still nothing. I know that this is no fault of the city's. I know the city has been working diligently with the builder and with the utility providers in that to attempt to get this completed. It's not really a fault of the builder per se. They've been delivering, they've been building. I mean, my home that I'm supposed to buy was physically completed 2 months ago, but no power. And the delays have been due to PG&E. PG&E has failed to deliver in undergrounding utilities, in connecting the transformers to energize the subdivision, to get out and install the meters on the house, and now to energize the street lights out there. This is important to me, obviously, because I want to buy my new house. I want to move in there. But I think it's more important to even some of the others. I spoke with the seller today. There's about 20 families that have still been displaced. They were supposed to close escrow this month, February, and move in, and they've not yet, obviously. There's a family in Turlock staying in a motel. They've been there for over 100 days. I think back in December, this was spoken about a bit with the council there. There you go. Some people I know have had to back out of selling the home that they're currently in, losing potential sale price on that because the market has changed since they originally put their house up for sale on that. I know the builder is working towards getting things done to get this completed. the families who want to live here in Riverbank in this community are ready to move in. The loans are in place. The house lights are on, but we can't go home yet. As I said, I'm aware that the city has been working with the developer to get this done, to get the occupancy permits going so we can move in. The main thing I'm here to speak about maybe is the streetlight issue. I know that that's been one that has been given to me quite often as a reason that there's a delay. Electricity in general, streetlights specifically. And I did get a little bit more information after I made my notes before I stood before here today. So I'm modifying on the fly here. Knowing that the streetlights will be on soon, I'm hoping that the city staff and council can help to ensure that all the ducks are in line from the city side. You know, we get our individual lot inspections, the checklist, working with the developer to get those done. And maybe we can leave that little checkbox of city streetlights are on, unchecked, knowing that they're going to be on. That way, when that does get checked, these families can move in. They can move in that day. You know, we have movers scheduled and I put a deposit down and I'm probably going to have to delay that. And, you know, the deposit money is not going to make or break my budget personally, thankfully, but I know it could be a problem for others. And really what I'm asking for is anything that we can do as a community, that the council can do to help us as residents and the future families that are going to live here in this community with us, future, you know, members of our community, to ensure they can get in as quickly, easily, as streamlined as possible. And I know that the developer is open to any other steps that we can do for specifically the street light issue. One of the things that they said is, you know, we have some solar lights up there now for security purposes. If the street light, I mean, PG&E's crews were pulled away for emergencies for the storm. They don't know when they're going to be able to energize those. You know, if they could put up some solar lights, additional ones. I mean, I'd put one in my new front yard for crying out loud if it would help us all move into that when we get to that, you know. So I appreciate any consideration you can do to help other communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm gonna pause public comment. Cody? Is he back there? Okay, we did solar lighting in front of Galaxy Theater. Is there a way that we could just either temporarily or put up some to make it safe?
So there's probably an option to do that, but we would need to see if we could procure those as quickly as we
I
would
feel-
be able to do that with PG&E energizing.
Okay.
So it's a matter of seeing what type of inventory. Now, at that point is you would be making an investment in a temporary solution.
Or a permanent one that PG&E can pay. If I can have all this information and I'll write Patty Poppy. Sorry, next.
For me, just kind of mentioned or touched on my family's issue. I was instructed in September to sell my home. My wife and I owned a home in Patterson. We were told to sell our home, and if not, we would lose our ability to buy a house in Patterson. So we did, or in Riverbank, sorry, in Riverbank. So we did. My family moved into the Candlewood Suites on October 25th, 2022. Geez. And I've spent over $19,000 in the hotel, waiting to become a Riverbankian. And I just want to go home. And Sunday, the Candlewood Suites, they've been working with us, great company, much love to those guys. They came to me and said, we are sorry, but we have to have you leave this Sunday. So as of noon on Sunday, me, my 4 family members and my 3 dogs will be homeless. We have lived in a 200 square foot bedroom with 3 dogs and 4 people for 4.5 months. And like I said, I just want to go home and I can't. And as of Sunday, I won't have a home. I'll live in a car.
Sir, if you could speak with our planning manager, Donna Kinney, and provide her with your specific address. If you could do so, and then we can make sure to follow up. Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Jamie Yeagers. I live at 7730 McHenry Avenue, Modesto. That's in the unincorporated area of Stanislaus County, but within the project area of the proposed Riverwalk project. I'm here tonight to encourage you to vote no on the project when it comes before you. The area that we live in is an agricultural area. It's in your current general plan designated as ag. And we would like to see it remain that way. It's a beautiful time of the year in the ag community. Our brand new almond trees have mostly already budded out. Many are still as white as snow, as you know, but ours are mostly leafed out. And the area behind us, which would be the Riverwalk area, is all tilled up. It's beautiful soil. It's been fertilized, seeded. It's ready to go for the next crop, so we're anxious to see what it's going to be. It's some type of a row crop, perhaps corn like last year or some other type. We'll wait to see when things bud out soon. This area is not suitable for homes because it's the highest possible agricultural property. We know that because the state of California Department of Conservation classifies soils of every ag parcel in the state of 10 acres or larger. And this property is designated as either prime or lands of statewide importance, the two highest possible categories. So our concern is that homes should be placed on soils of lesser quality. And there are lots of areas in Riverbank, including the whole Crossroads Rest area that are available for development. So again, please vote no on this project when it comes before you. Thank you.
Next, please. My name is Gilbert Rose. I just moved into Riverbank 6 months ago, and I own a corner lot, which is 6.2 acres. I bought it simply for my RV access. I just got a notice saying that my fifth wheel has to be on a driveway, which is on the side of my house. I'm under construction right now with my house, rearranging everything. I would like to see the fence lines get pushed out closer to the sidewalk. And I just want to, since I bought the corner lot, I want to be able to put my trailer behind a fence on the side of my house. I have a lot of room right now. It's parked there. It's about 10 feet away from the sidewalk. And they gave me a notice saying that the fifth wheel and my utility trailer has to be moved and put in a driveway. Well, all these driveways around here aren't long enough for a 30-foot fifth wheel. My side of my RV access is 90 feet. So I have a lot of room, but they're saying I parked on the lawn. There is no lawn there. It's all dead. So I just want to see if we can move the fence line out and what we could do about these people's RVs, because I was talking to a lot of people about it and they all got the same problem. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Hello, Mayor Bryan
Hi.
and Vice Mayor Hernandez, city council members. My name is Karen Conrado. I live on Hogue Road, Modesto. I'm here to let you know how strongly I oppose the proposed Riverwalk housing development. I know you've heard this many times, but you're proposing to build on prime agricultural land, which is highly productive. It's also a floodplain, and you've already had experience with your residents suffering through flooding in the River Cove area. It's next to the Stanislaus River, so you have wildlife habitat, and wildlife corridors. You have aquifer depletion and lack of recharge if it's paved over with homes and roads. There are infrastructure concerns for garbage, sewage, water, traffic, emergency services. And there's land that you have available elsewhere, already approved. Crossroads. I don't know about the ammo plant area and also infill of your home, of your town. That's good enough. I just hope that you oppose this when it comes in front of you. Please vote no. Thank you very much.
Next, please. Come on, there's a lot of people here. We want to hear from you. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Consistent of item 9.1 waive readings. All readings or just waive readings, that's it. Anybody want to have a discussion about the consent calendar?
No.
Okay, let's go for it. Please, I have to.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
We have a motion to approve in a second on the consent calendar. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Uribe,
Yes.
Councilmember Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hernandez,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. All right, number item 10.1, resolution approving fiscal year 2022-23 mid-year budget amendments.
Mayor and
Madam Stella.
council, tonight, Assistant
Tammy.
City Manager
Well,
Tammy
right,
Alcantar
Tammy.
will be providing the staff report.
Good evening, Tammy.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I have the agenda item for you, which is our mid-year budget review and a small presentation for you. So our mid-year budget review provides an opportunity to revisit projections that we made with our annual operating budget when we adopted it in June of 2022. We make those adjustments based on new information, emergency needs, and/or revenue and expenditure trends. We provide departments with an opportunity to request new appropriations for emergency projects, equipment that require immediate attention. So this is a graph of our revenue growth. You can see we had a big dip there, but we are back on the rise again. And with that, in our general fund, we made a few adjustments. We are experiencing property tax increases in both our secured taxes and our VLF swap property tax. And then we continue to see an uptick in the sales tax. A couple other minor changes in the franchise tax or fees and plan check fees. And some adjustment to our transfers in based on some personnel changes and additions. So our original budget for revenues was 12.9 million and our amended is at 13.5. So we added approximately $500,000 to that, to the revenues. So here's our expenditures. Unfortunately, they have the same growth as revenues. And we had a few minor adjustments in here, some costs for the centennial events. We did a lot of cleanup in our utility accounts for bad debt. So we had some expense there. We had some salary savings from a position that wasn't filled. But we are using outside consultants, so that expenditure is there as well to offset some of those savings. We had an emergency sewer repair at City Hall South. And then our election costs we had budgeted came in lower. And police services, we had the increase in our contract costs. So our original projection was 13.6 million. The amended is 14 million. So we've added approximately 400,000 to our expenditures. So here's our general fund. Our beginning reserve was originally budgeted at 4.8 million. We, went back and reviewed those once our fiscal year was completed and it's been revised to the 6.1 million. And then as we noted, there's the revenues, and the expenditures. So originally our ending estimated fund reserve was to be at 4.3. We are now, projecting that at 5.6, which gives us a 40% reserve. Our original budget was at 33%. And this just goes over basically everything that was in that graph there, showing the beginning reserves, the revenues, expenditures, and what we anticipate for our ending reserve. So for our general fund considerations for future budgets, we need to continue considering the property tax increases as it results to new development. When we add houses, it does add some property tax to ours. Revenue, and then our future Crossroads West Commercial Center. Expenditure increases anticipated, continuing our evaluation of department staffing, our CalPERS unfunded liability, and then maybe some capital needs that have no other funding sources, and our continued subsidies to other funds such as the gas tax for our streets and roads. And speaking of gas tax, here's our gas tax fund. Again, we looked at we amended all the beginning reserve balances. So at the beginning of this fiscal year, it was 196. We did amend our revenues. Unfortunately, the current projections from the state are that we're getting approximately less $133,000 in gas tax revenues. And our expenditures had some minor changes in them, but that decrease in the revenues meant an increase from subsidy of the general fund. And you do see that there is a negative reserve there, and that is because there are capital projects within those expenditures that will be funded by future SB1 fundings. Our sewer, we did have some minor changes in there, nothing major, a lot of cleanup in personnel. We had some retirements, we had some new positions. So all those adjustments were made. We anticipate ending the year with a healthy reserve of 8.2. That reserve, while it is large, is meant to fund the future capital projects that are needed, some of the future capital projects that are needed in the sewer. And in our water fund, the reserve ending balance is 1.7 million. And again, largely what the reserve is meant for is capital projects that are needed. The reserve balance in the water fund is slightly lower, not slightly, it is lower, because when we did our meter switch out, we were not charging for consumption water. So we're behind on collecting that reserve for our capital projects. And the last major fund that we're going to go over is the Public Benefit Analysis Fund. And so that's for our cannabis. And we did reduce the revenues in this one. We currently have 3 developer or agreements with cannabis. One of them temporarily closed. One is still active, and another one, which is a distribution, has had very little, their business plan has changed, and so their revenues have completely changed. We have a 4th one that is not currently open for shop. So we are not seeing any of those revenues. So this fund is used to help fund for your sergeants, your neighborhood officer, and your community resource officer. So where are we going, preparing for the future? There's differing opinions on when we might expect what would be called the next recession. We should continue to have those discussions on how to plan, as well as major expenditures anticipated in the upcoming future. And evaluate the Section 115 trust to mitigate impact for future retirement cost increases. Fiscal year 23-24 budget preparation will begin here shortly, and we'll be looking at major expenditures that could potentially include the general plan update, evaluation of staffing needs, state space that's needed for City Hall, increased costs and personnel benefits, and then any kind of deferred maintenance on city buildings and infrastructure. So tonight, staff does recommend that the city council consider approving the mid-year budget amendments as presented. And I can answer any questions if you might have them.
I do have a question on the gas tax.
Yes.
When we are subsidizing it through the general fund, can we make that a loan? I do not want to have a maintenance of effort issue 5 years down the road.
Certainly have that discussion. It's probably wise to have it very soon.
Because the state will say, well, you paid out of your general fund 390,000. So from now on, from your general fund, pay 390,000. And I think by a loan, whether it gets paid back or not, it's on the books. I just don't want to get into the trap like we did in 2011.
You're correct on that, Mayor.
Good to have corporate knowledge. Okay, thank you. Any questions? Go ahead.
No questions. We kind of discussed one of the issues, or just kind of caution for the public benefit fund, just to be aware the expenses are outpacing the revenues there. It looks like Flavors is pretty much paying for the whole thing there. Probably a good idea to maybe pause on the cameras and stuff like that, because at this rate, it's going to deplete in about 3 years. So just kind of heads up there, but no other questions on that.
I don't have a question, but yeah, I guess it is a question. This is about the public benefit. So you mentioned that the one of the cannabis distribution centers, that they're having troubles in their
So-
distribution.
Yeah, they're a third-party distribution, so they're not the manufacturer, so they distribute for a manufacturer. Well, what they were experiencing is that the retailers were going directly to the manufacturer and bypassing the third party. And therefore, they were having to they're having to reevaluate their business plan because of that, because they were losing some of their income because of that.
Okay, and then Perfect Union.
Correct.
So they are closed.
They are.
And is there plans to sell
So,
that building or?
When they originally closed, they told us it was temporary. We thought maybe 3 to 6 months. It's been almost a year, but I have had some communications and they do indicate that they are intending to reopen, but they didn't give me a date. Mhm.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the public? Any questions from Zoom?
Mayor, there is no one wishing to speak.
All right, I bring it back for either further discussion or for consideration.
I make a motion that we accept this agenda item
I'll
as
second it.
presented.
And I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve in a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Uribe,
Yes.
Councilmember Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hernandez,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you. A resolution approving the Local Redevelopment Authority, LRA, fiscal year 2022-23 mid-year budget amendment, and this is item 10.2.
And Melissa Holdaway, our administrative analyst at the Local Redevelopment Authority, will provide the report.
Good evening, Chair and Authority members. Tonight
Good evening.
presenting. In this overview, I'll talk about the development since the preliminary adoption, revised projections, and adjustments to the revenue expenditures. On the revenue side, we had the sale of parcel B and an increase in ESCA 2 funding for amendment to the scope of work. That's for, I think it's the concrete testing and additional work with the concrete out in the production area. The expenditures, we had a salary benefit increase with execution of the new contract in January and the capital improvement for replacement of transformers. ESCA number 2, amended contractor scope for that additional work I just said. In revenue adjustments, we had 1.86 million additional revenue come in. Expenditures of 6.1 million with the transformer replacement. And that is from we had, at the time of the preliminary budget, we didn't have the engineer's estimates and costing for the transformers. And now we do. So I've earmarked that in this budget year, and that created the structural deficit of $4 million. That'll carry over from year to year, and as the excess funds are available, it'll deplete that, and the project will move forward accordingly. So right now we have, I guess, the transformer, there's a year wait for a transformer. And so we're earmarking one for, I think it's sub 17, and we're moving forward with that. So tonight I ask for approval for the Local Redevelopment Authority mid-year budget as amended. Any questions?
Are there any questions? Can you explain how we transition to Ametis when we give up all of our debt and Ametis takes it very proudly and moves forward?
Well, the transformers have been part of the ESCA, so the Army is supposed to be removing them, and as the roof and siding project as well, where they remove it, but they won't replace them. So we've just earmarked that in the budget, and for the transformer replacement, as you know, that as revenue comes in, if there's any excess revenue, it goes back to the Army. And so we've earmarked this project, and it's been in place for a while, so.
I was hoping, never mind. Any questions?
We had all hoped, Mayor.
I know. Anyone from the public have a question or comment? Anyone in Zoom?
There is no one on Zoom, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll bring it back for consideration.
I'll make a motion to approve item 10.2.
I second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Roll call, please.
Chairmember Uribe,
Yes.
Chairmember Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Chair Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hernandez,
Yes.
Chair O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you all. New business, a resolution approving amendments to the memorandum of understanding between the City of Riverbank and Kerry Pope DBA Ammo Plant Management, Inc., relating to Ward Villas Affordable Housing Project.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Back in October of 2020, the city council approved this memorandum of understanding with Kerry Pope, who is a well-known developer here at the city of Riverbank. We were really excited to see the proposal for his project, as it is slated to be a for-sale affordable housing project. And so we're very proud to be able to provide funding towards that project in order to make it affordable for our residents. We have 3 changes that we'd like to make to the agreement that was originally presented in October of 2020 in order to facilitate that sale. The first of the major amendments that we're making is the fact that we initially were going to sell homes to residents that were at the 80% median income. What does that look like for our residents that are at 80% median income? A household of 4 members at that median income can earn no more than $63,000. A lot of our residents might be well below that. Some of those may be single family earners that have a very well, established job and are making a decent wage, and we're making significantly higher than that dollar amount. What we were also facing is the fact that we were seeing residents at those income levels that just simply could not afford the purchase of a home, regardless of any assistance that we might have been able to provide through our first-time home buyer program. We have debt to income ratios that were being exceeded. COVID did not help the situation, as many of our residents decided to use credit cards and other means in order to be able to finance their needs during that time. And so what we have decided to do and what we have discussed is that the granting agency that provides us the funding for the program or for the agreement also allows us to be able to use what's called the median income, which is at 120% of the area median income. So for a household of four, while previously at the 80% was at 63,000, that would increase to 80,000. And so that does open the door significantly for a lot of residents to be able to purchase their first homes. So we'd like to make the change from the 80% to up to the 120%. The second is that it would allow for the advance of funds to be reimbursed to the developer from state funds. Unfortunately, the state does take quite some time when it comes to the reimbursement process. We have actually been working with them since September of 2022 for the very last round of reimbursements due to Mr. Kerry Pope for his subdivision. It's now February, and what I've been told is that it may be March before I see any documentation that will come through authorizing that appropriation. Of course, that does cause some cash flow issues for the developer, and we do not want to cause any other delays other than what they have already been facing due to supply and of course PG&E issues that continue. And so we'd like to be able to front those monies through any available city reserves and then be able to reimburse ourselves from the state revenues when those come in. The third change is that Mr. Pope has decided that he was going to partner with another developer by the name of Mark Wilbur. You are familiar with him. He has worked on other subdivisions here at the city. And so we've included language that in the event that Mr. Pope would like to remove himself from the agreement, that any future developers would also be subject to all of the terms within the original agreement. So that is all of the information I have as part of the staff report. I'm available for any questions, and Mr. Pope is also available in the audience should you have any questions for him.
Thank you. Questions? Just a comment. I know that we're protecting the individuals by ensuring their DIR is correct or is balanced, that the income ratio. I have no problem with also the 120%. My issue is with the state. They tell us to expedite all of our housing needs, and they demand in areas which other people object to where we're going to develop. They want us to build all the housing that we can possibly handle, yet they don't pay their debts in time. So maybe after I write Patty Poppy, I can write Gavin Newsom. I just find that to be contrary, just like our environmental issues that we have. We want to move forward to help protect the environment. And they're saying, well, we're not going to. So that's my problem. I get off my soapbox. All right, sorry about that. Public comment, please. Seeing none, do we have any on Zoom?
Mayor, there is no one on Zoom.
Very good. Bring it back for consideration.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept this agenda item 11.1 as stated.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve in a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Uribe,
Yes.
Councilmember Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hernandez.
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you all. Now for a workshop, 12-1, yard regulation workshop.
Donna Kinney, Planning and Building Manager for the city, will provide this report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Staff would like to have a conversation with you tonight on some things that are going on in the city. Specifically, we'd like a review of the front yard and street side setbacks, pavement and fencing locations within our residential zones. You may have noticed that they're not all treated equally. Sometimes one regulation will be in one zone but not another. Sometimes it's just oversight by staff. Other times there's specific reasons like multifamily housing that may not, have that type of issue and need that type of regulation. So some of our regulations are no more than 50% of a residential front yard shall be paved and no more than 50% of a rear yard shall be paved. Another regulation we are having some issues with is an interior side yard may be paved if a minimum of 1 foot is left unpaved along the side property line behind the front setback and into the rear setback. The reason we believe that these regulations came about, and you'll see parts of a survey that we did with the surrounding cities, has to do with stormwater percolation. The state would like as much stormwater to percolate on the site of a project as possible. You may or may not have noticed, like for instance, Diamond Bar West has quite a few swales in their yards, even though they do have a basin there that captures quite a bit of the water to percolate it. But as much as we can do makes the state happy. Yes.
While we're on each of the topics, let's have that discussion. If I'm in a planned development, I have a large basin. Is that part of my on-site
Yes,
or
it
is that
is.
off-site?
It would be considered on-site.
Okay, so we have a lot of subdivisions that, they went to like the fifth wheel. They need a place to park it. It's gonna consume probably more than 50% of their front yard, but they're still part of that basin. MS4 tells us what?
I'm
We're
not-
supposed to recapture all the stormwater.
All the stormwater that we can.
No, all the stormwater. There
Yes.
is no.
Mhm.
Okay, so however the water happens, whether it percolates in my front yard or goes to the storm basin, that's all on site. Now, I understand our reasonings behind it, but not every piece of property can percolate. Correct?
Right. There are differences in soils.
Right,
Yes.
but our basins can percolate.
Hopefully, yes.
No, they're
They
designed,
should,
they
should.
are designed, so wherever we develop, no water is going to be lost. Like right now, let's say we have an acre foot of water, about 12 inches of water per year. That's an acre foot. We have 3,000 acres. What is an acre foot of water? 300,000 gallons? Multiply that, that's 9 million gallons, no, 9 billion gallons of water. And we take that, we put it back into the aquifer, and then we take it on out. So it has to be captured. It can't go anywhere else, or we're in violation of is it MS4 or MS2?
MS4.
Okay, and I don't want to be in violation of MS4. So as long as I know we really want to make everything uniform, and I'm not going after anybody particularly. I just want to make sure that as we are looking at this, we take the whole picture into consideration.
Well, Mayor, something I do hope that everybody considers as well, and it was a conversation I was having with Councilmember Uribe earlier, is that as part of the development, yes, they are required to maintain and capture all of their stormwater on site. It could be that through the calculations that they make on the depth and the size of that stormwater basin that needs to be on site, that they are taking into consideration the fact that a home will have a certain amount of open land that will be able to capture some of that and percolate on the home itself, rather than running off into the storm drain basin, into the storm drain line actually in the street that then drains over to the basin, therefore perhaps impacting how much water can be held on there or not.
And I agree with that. And as we make our storm drain system more sophisticated and have it regional like we're planning on, that we can transfer water from one storm basin to another and have that percolate down where we don't have to give it to MID and have it pumped out to the sea when they sprinkle a little chlorine in it. That's my opinion.
Just out of curiosity, so the percolation rate, does it vary substantially per subdivision? Is it a pretty big difference there?
I don't have those numbers, but I'm assuming that they're fairly similar.
Okay, I'd love to see that information before I, make a final decision. I know it's not, we're making decisions and we're just taking all the
No,
info
but this is
now.
just a workshop. I've just as discussion because I know that there's a lot around, I know I have complete runoff with very little absorption in but it could have been the way that I just landscape.
And I'm curious because of the drought and the soil hardening with all that, like, do we reevaluate that percolation rate down the road? Just kind of curious if I can get that kind of information too. So,
No, I can check with Public Works on that.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else? You gonna throw knives or?
So in our new development, who's actually looking at this, to make sure that it is done correctly?
City engineer?
So we can get reports?
Yes. Sure.
Okay, good.
There's also been some issues with fencing. Right now, our code allows 6 feet without a permit, and that usually is reserved for the side property lines and the rear property lines and up to the front of the house. 7 feet if there's a good reason and you get permission from the planning department. And then 8 feet with a permit, and that's reserved for residential zones that are next to industrial or commercial zones that have a lot of activity or noise. So very few of those are issued. In the front yards, no higher than 3 feet when the fence is solid. And people are allowed to put a 3-foot fence along the sidewalk. Generally, most streets, like on especially corner houses, their front yard street and then their side street have a 10-foot public utility easement. So basically, in those areas, the front and the side setback, they either have a 3-foot fence or 4-foot if it's an open type of fence that runs at the back of the sidewalk, which would be considered one edge of the public utility easement. If they want to go a little bit farther in the yard, they would have to go past the 10-foot easement and have a fence starting on the opposite edge of the 10-foot public utility easement. Some of those easements have Charter, sometimes they have PG&E, AT&T. There's quite a few utilities in some of those easements. So when somebody decides to just go ahead and put a fence right in the middle of the easement, not only are they chancing hitting one of those utilities, but also when the utility comes in to do some work, they will tear down your block wall or your fence, and it will be the responsibility of the homeowner to deal with the aftermath because they won't replace it. So some of the code issues we have been dealing with recently, property owners are paving more than 50% of their front yard to add parking, which decreases stormwater percolation. As I mentioned before, it's also 50% of the rear yard. But because the rear yard's behind fences, we don't normally see what's going on back there. And quite a few homes have put in pools and then cemented their whole backyard. So there's absolutely no percolation going on in some of those backyards. We don't require a permit for flat work. So there's really no way to get the homeowner to provide us with like a site plan to let us look at the 50% or look at the location of that flat work. And for them to just go into our code and search, they may not find the information that they need before they go ahead and do that flat work. Some of our ADA sidewalk ramps are being used as a second driveway approach, which is completely against state law. Putting in a second driveway has its impacts as well. We have regulations on that. For example, when we site a driveway at a new house, the driveway has to have a 5-foot setback to the property line. Then the neighbor next to them has a 5-foot setback. So you basically have 10 feet of open space that will allow some percolation between the lots. On the, those who put in a driveway, also a second driveway, due to some safety issues, with Public Works, they prefer to see, and our code is written, to have 20 feet between, driveways. So, a yard needs to be fairly wide in order to have, 2 driveways on it. You would have the 5-foot setback, your 20-foot driveway, the 20 feet between the driveways, your second 20-foot driveway, and then another 5-foot setback. So many properties in the city don't have enough frontage in order to put in a second driveway. Another issue with the ADA sidewalk ramps is if a person builds a driveway to their side yard to park a boat or an RV, they're awfully tempted to let visitors park on that. Well, if they park on it near the ADA ramp, they may not see a child on the sidewalk in a tricycle, or they may be parked close enough to the stop sign where somebody may not be able to have a clear view of the intersection. So that's why we don't really want those sidewalks there. In order to accommodate their boats and move this forward one.
Donna, before you move forward, can you back
Okay.
up real quick? The middle item right there, permit.
Yeah.
Not required for flat work. Paving regulations are not easily accessible to the public. Why is that?
Well, like I mentioned that some of the regulations are in several different sections of the code. And also we have a different document that has the city street and sidewalk and driveway standards in it. And the citizen may not be educated enough to search in all those different areas to get a full picture of what they can and cannot do.
And I have gone through the ordinances and stuff. We don't translate any of this stuff, do we?
We haven't at this point. As part of one of my grants, the last piece of it is to have JB Anderson Land Use Planning update my handouts. And I would like, if I have enough funding left, to get some of those into Spanish. We do have a few documents, like the You Can Build It document that is about 30 pages long. That is in Spanish and available to folks. As part of this enforcement issue, we currently have 8 open permits for vehicles that are parked in their front or side yards. 6 illegal driveways that use the ADA ramps for side yard access, and 3 homes with over 50% paved front yards. But these are just enforcement issues that have been reported to us. We don't just drive around and ding people for it. It's usually a complaint from a neighbor or somebody passing through that we follow up on. And some of these, like the homes with the 50% paved front yard, we have not issued citations. They've just gotten letters saying that you are in violation of some of our codes. And that we've known for a couple months that we wanted to have this workshop, kind of talk it out with you. So we've delayed enforcement on these until we have some direction from council.
How many total letters have gone out? I know 3 are in the enforcement stage, but how many total letters have gone out?
Up to, I have Senior Neighborhood Improvement Officer, Michelle Garcia here. Maybe she can help me with some of those numbers since she's deals with them on a daily basis.
Michelle, if you could come up to the podium.
Mayor Council, Michelle Garcia. So we have 8 letters that have gone out, 8 residences that have received letters. 6 of those are for the driveways, and then 2 for the 50% or more. And some of them have like multiple issues. So I have a few of them that the letter also address the fences that are not meeting setback requirements and the driveways using the ADA ramps as well.
I have a quick question. How are you dealing with folks that have purchased homes that already had all this in place and they had no idea that they were purchasing a home that was not in compliance with some of these things? I mean, you could see that happening.
We haven't cited them, but they are in violation and have received a letter pending a discussion with the council. I would say that our code would require them to move their fence back or remove the illegal driveway or break up some of the pavement that does not cover that's more than 50%. When I actually worked for the city of Hayward, they had an ongoing issue with the 50% coverage. And in fact, we even had one person who came in and said she paved the whole front yard because her father was blind and she was afraid he would trip over landscaping. The city of Hayward made them remove 50% of the cement on that yard. So it is something that cities deal with on an ongoing basis, and it can be expensive for those who buy a house not knowing and have to go back and take care of it.
Just to be clear, so that on the timeline, the LID, the public notice was 2013, correct? And then this 50% came into play October of 2017. Is that correct?
No, I actually didn't find the ordinance that approved that.
No?
No.
What was the?
Actually, as part of the code, Donna, if you look at the bottom,
I
it
did.
does have,
And I went back and looked at the ordinance that went with it, and it wasn't in there as a change at that time.
we'll talk after.
If I can get
yeah.
clarification on the timeline would be
Sure.
helpful too. Thank you.
Questions on this part?
Okay, I'll chime.
Okay.
All right, in new construction, the front yards are small. If you have a 3-yard car garage and a little bit of space between you and the neighbor and another 3-car garage, it doesn't make sense, ordinance that we're talking about, having the 10 to 20 feet in between. Take a look at the front yard, is a lot less than 50% of your paved. So in new home construction without modifications, we're not meeting all the requirements. And I can show you exactly, if you come to my house, look at my house, turn around, and I think you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, but that was never modified. So yeah, we need to sit down and really look at what we need to enforce. Now, ADA, tear them up. You're not supposed to be blocking ADA, using ADA, get rid of it. And I don't care how much they've spent. But the use of it should never have been contemplated. Because that is something you cannot touch. But you know, some of the other issues that we have, I think we need to be a little bit, and I'm not going after any individual or I understand that we have to have regulations and they vary from subdivision to subdivision. The violation of the easement, I would just like to say, if there is a reason we need to go in, the fence will be removed. You're responsible for either repairs or setting it back. I am not there to say, you know, like if someone bought a house, to have them move it back. But that's a discussion we'll have to have. They have to understand the consequences, but they can't have a setback or easement violation and an ADA violation. So, well, I'll take care of it later on. Because I know a couple of those that you're talking about.
I have a quick question. Maybe it's a question for Michelle, but can you remind me of the process with the enforcement issues and once that notice is given, what happens and the time frame that lapses for the repairs to be done?
No, it generally, but she has all the details.
And just a quick note, and the note of our documents and processes not being translated. It's a little bit of a concern if you know that's not in language. Oh,
Letters do at the bottom, it does state in Spanish that if you need help with this, please call. And then we have our number and then it's our general number in code enforcement that they call, but then we transfer them to a Spanish speaker. So we have two in development services alone. And if they're not available, then I find somebody else that can help interpret for us. So yes, the whole letter is not in Spanish, but we do have at least something saying, if you need help, call and we can help you. So we try to do that. And then, like Donna said too, the you can build it. We do use that in code enforcement as well when people have questions, and we do have that in Spanish for them. And it goes over the basics of what you can do, what you need a permit for, what you don't need a permit for, and goes through the process of that. And as far as our enforcement, when we receive the complaint, depending on the complaint, how much information we get, whether we get an address or not, a lot of times we'll send out a letter and then we'll go out and check it within 2 weeks to see if it's been mitigated or not. If it's not real clear what the complaint is, then we'll go out and look at it first before we send a notice. And then once the notice goes out, they have 2 weeks to contact us. And then if they don't, then if the violation is still there, we'll send a second notice. And on the second notice, it says you have 5 to 7 days to contact us. We still give 2 weeks though. We don't hold them tight to that 5 to 7 days. And then after that 2 weeks, then if the violation is still there, then they get a notice of violation. And that explains I'm so sorry. That explains that if they do not mitigate, they will receive a citation. And it advises that they also could receive a lien on their property. So it kind of goes over at the bottom and it explains to them, what the next steps are. And then we generally give another 2 weeks, and then that's when we would start issuing citations. If people ask us for an extension, we'll generally give 3 to 4 weeks, depending on the situation. And as long as we're seeing some movement, but if they're not doing anything, just asking for extensions, we kind of try to hold tight to those 2-week increments. Okay.
Okay. So now these are these photos are not from Riverbank. We didn't want to call out anybody, so these are from other cities that we got in our research.
Damn series.
It may be mine, I won't say.
So this one you can see has more than one violation. It has the side over here paved as well as over 50% of the front yard. This one as well, they did the side yard over here to accommodate extra parking. Here's another one. They've pretty much done their whole front yard except for that little space of green between them and their neighbors. I believe that this area to the left is white gravel. So they are getting some percolation, but way less than 50%. And this is one where they've paved the side so they could use the ramp for a driveway and park something in their side yard there. So we did a survey of nearby jurisdictions. Ceres, for example, 50% of the front yard, or maximum of 50% shall be paved. They have a 7-foot fence height, but also the 3 feet within the front and side yard. They don't mention the property line and whether or not they have an issue with the easement. Lodi, maximum of 50%. They're also silent on the side property line. Patterson, maximum 50%, 10 feet from the street side setback, just like Riverbank. Turlock, they can go up to 55% of street coverage. They are silent on the property line setback. So we are requesting direction from council as part of this conversation. It doesn't have to be today because I know you've got a lot to think about. We could keep the regulations as they are. You could identify the need for text amendments, discuss what you would like to see changed, and maybe have us do some research and work on that, or look at the impacts or get you the additional information that you've requested. But we wanted to open this up and share this because there are concerns both from staff who has to do the enforcement and from folks who find themselves guilty or not as part of the enforcement process. As you said, some people might have bought a house that already had a violation and did not know it at the time. I personally have been reaching out to the realtors that I speak with about corner houses and promising people that they can move fences and build driveways and get their RV in there just to make a sale. That's kind of where we are with that. But I'd be happy to answer any additional questions or provide any additional research for a future meeting if you'd like.
Oh, I do want to include as part of the information as you're contemplating some of the feedback that you might be providing. One of the recurring themes was, well, why is this subdivision slightly different than that subdivision? If you recall, a lot of our subdivisions go through a rezone to a planned development. And in rezoning to a planned development, that does allow for some flexibility in terms of our typical standards. And so that's why you may see the newer subdivisions with smaller lot sizes than what we would typically see in an R1 zoning. We then try to adjust from there, the setbacks, et cetera, to fit that specific plan development. So yes, while some areas may seem that they are smaller, there's still setbacks that they have to comply with as well. They just may not all be the same and consistent throughout the city because of that specific process that it went through.
I'm not really set on the hardscaping is what you're talking about as being, a percentage wise. I think we should encourage porous pavers versus concrete. Porous pavers, the entire yard is supposed to be able to absorb an inch an hour. And if we have rain an inch an hour, then we're in trouble. But that can happen. Again, though, as soil compacts in residential areas, the storm basins are the ones supposed to be able to absorb it. I do understand that, we believe that our yards will absorb and percolate down. But I have a sump pump for a reason. When it rains and it goes right into the storm drains. So am I supposed to say that? No, it's true. It doesn't flow out. Okay, sorry.
One slide that I thought about putting in later, but it was actually too late, has to do with aesthetics as well. If front yards are all paved, we start to look like apartment complexes, where we do allow paving in front of the units. So aesthetics is another consideration as well.
So I am a renter, so this may seem like a silly question, but if somebody has fully paved front or back, are there negative impacts to the neighbor's yard or property?
There could be, while you are, not you personally, but your landlord needs to have the water percolate on his property. When you pave your property, that could cause your water to go into your neighbor's yard and may cause an impact with their landscaping or their foundation. So that's another reason why on the side, we say you can pave everything but 1 foot, and that's hopefully to channel the water to your rear yard or to your front yard to keep it from going to the neighbors.
I was just thinking that maybe some people are thinking, that because of the drought, no grass, I don't have to worry about it, so maybe that was why some of the people paved over maybe they weren't sure about how much pavement they can put down. but was thinking that, you know, hey, I don't have to worry about any grass. I'll just have concrete. So that might be what some folks were thinking at the time they did that.
That's true. And I also think that your children are growing up. You may have started out with 2 cars that fit in the garage. Then you start using the garage for storage and parking on the driveway. Then you have a new driver and then another new driver, and you may have 4 or 5 cars at your house. And when you have that on a neighborhood street, people start impacting each other with the parking. So, that might be part of it too. You know, they just want to put a little extra cement on their yard so they have 1 less car on the street.
Let the public speak and then we can continue.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. Well, we're gonna allow the public to come on up here and make comments. I'm sure everybody's here has something to say. Public comment, please. Sure.
It would be for the new construction, because there is a builder and there is a seller, to let the homeowners know the regulations of Riverbank prior to moving into their new home. I know that a lot of the properties that are grandfathered are maybe gonna have to be policed a little differently, but the information that we're talking about here at council tonight, doesn't seem to be too difficult to hand that into their hands, so that now that when you show up at their front door, it's like, well, you had the information given to you. It's not this unknown.
I agree in some sense of that, sir. What I believe that if a new homeowner or property owner comes in and activate their utility bills, we give them the same thing, just ensure that they get it. When I became a resident, the first thing I asked, I had all these sycamore trees. It's lifting up the sidewalk. They're not our trees, they're yours, so I ripped them out. And there was things that residents should know. Because I think the city has no trees except for in parks and some of the older areas. There is a way, the method to get the information to them. Also, we do put out periodically flyers, but a lot of them, as we know, on the 218 process, just toss them.
Also to address that, I have been talking to the newer developers with the newer subdivisions, and we're actually having some of this information put directly on the plot plan that they are given, and that the buyers sign, that they understand everything that they're getting into.
I know when I got the plot plan, I did have the easement and I knew where it was. Okay, any other comments? Yes, sir. You can be as nervous or calm as you like. We're nervous up here.
My wife says I said 6.2 acres. I live on a quarter acre.
A quarter, I kind of figured that out, sir.
And it's on a corner lot, and it's on Channel Drive behind CVS. It's not on the main road. It's, you have to go down, it's just a long road. But anyway, I bought, like I said, 6 months ago. I paid $5,000 to take down 3 redwood trees. It was a mess. This is on the side of my house. Made it all cleaned up, and that's why I want to move my fence closer to the sidewalk so I could put my RV and put everything behind the gate. All my neighbors said in 15 years, I have the nicest house, or that your house I live in, it's the nicest it's been in 15 years. Okay, I didn't want to move into association because of this reason.
Right.
Now there's, it seems like it is, because I can't do what I want with my yard. I bought specifically for my boat and my RV. And so all I want is to sit there and see if we can move the fence out, and instead of putting cement, put driveway gravel, which is the percolation will actually go in it. So, and then on my corner, I don't have a handicap, it's square, but I have rolling all the way around, the rolling curbs. So I won't be going up any curbs or anything like that. So, and like I said, it's 10 feet off the sidewalk right now. It's very low to my house, and you guys gave me a notice. So
Okay.
I just want to verify that.
Well, I don't know, from what you said, there was a 10-foot, and then that's something that has to be looked at. I believe that if we kind of come up with some guidance or recommendations and talk to the planning commission what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. My opinion, and we're not making a decision, so we're not giving direction like this. But put everything on hold until we come up with how we're going to proceed. That would be, I think, a justifiable way of, at the end, saying, okay, this is after all the inputs, sir, you may be in violation or not. If you have porous pavers or gravel, will that meet most of it? And if you're willing to have, if you're in an easement, your fence to be torn down in case of emergency, and if it damages any RV, boat, or anything else, that's you, as up to those in violation of the easement. But I don't know. I will have to take a look at where we're going and making sure that there are exceptions, that we fully understand the ramifications for the city's standpoint and also for the homeowner standpoint. And beautification is probably the best and that should be something taken into consideration too.
Like you guys said, a 3 foot could go right up against the sidewalk. Okay, so they get to enjoy the whole side of their house and they put all kinds of brush and everything. You can't even see around the corner. Okay, so I don't know what the difference is. I mean, they get to actually enjoy the side of their house. But with fence, you guys saying it has to be so many feet away from the sidewalk, it's all wasted, and stuff. And I paid $5,000 to remove those redwood trees, to clean it all up, to move it out. So that's all I wanted.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm a lot more comfort this time.
Good, and it's a 1/4 acre, not 6.14 acres. All right, any further comments?
Mayor, we have someone on Zoom wishing to speak.
Well, we also have someone else that wants to speak, if they can, come on. Okay, please, Zoom.
Hi, the number ending in 3108, do you hear me? No. Hi, the phone number ending in 3108, if you can hear us, if you can please unmute. Hi, can you please state your name and your comment?
Well, that's going on. Come on up and.
Hi, my name is Amber Cooper and I live in Crossroads. And first of all, we're one of the letters on the screen. I did want to say that Donna and Michelle have both been incredibly kind and understanding and trying to work through these issues with us. I would assume everyone else. One of the things that I noticed in your slideshow was that nothing was talked about rocked. On our particular property, we are a corner lot, which we are trying to fix that problem with the ADA corner. But our area is rocked. It is not paved or concreted. And so we still have the water going into our.
Circulation.
Yes. The other thing that I wanted to address is that the letters, I would think I'm fairly educated and have a pretty deep working background, and they were hard to understand. It was a lot of verbiage that was legal or just specifically stating the codes. And then there were some diagrams in those letters that were really hard to figure out, well, what's wrong with my property? What's happening to where I am breaking these codes for the city? And it's pretty disheartening when you are good citizens in our neighborhood, minding their own business, working every day to make a living and make things ends meet. And then you have these problems thrown in your face and that you have to fix them immediately. And these problems could be extremely costly problems. And as stated before, costly problems that the owners may not have known about going into buying that property. So I'm just asking for perhaps time and consideration for the homeowners to get these things into order, depending on what is decided upon. And consideration of just, it's hard to have this thrown on someone when there's so many other things going on in our neighborhoods that aren't being addressed or that are feeling like they're being ignored when this feels very minor. It was also addressed that there is a particular person who was upset about this issue and went around and took pictures of other homes and wrote down addresses to turn into the city over and over and over again, which is just overall just very frustrating. So I think just mainly what I'm asking for is better clarification in the letters, more communication. Perhaps not at fault of Michelle and Donna, but it was extremely hard to get a hold of them. Leaving messages and emails and not hearing back. I'm sure they have tons and tons of things on their plate and they're probably stretched thin. But when you get these threatening letters, with violation amounts, it can be pretty scary when all we're trying to do is just live our regular life and be a good resident.
Bill Mayor and city council members. I am the husband of my wife. I just talked. I have a little more.
I'm sure you have a name other than I'm the husband.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm the husband.
That
Just
may
Cooper.
be.
I'm Kevin, sorry.
Okay.
I am actually have construction background. I'm in construction. I moved to Riverbank, or we moved to Riverbank, 12 years, 13 years ago? Yeah, 13 years ago. 2 years into that, I actually took, the reins and coming to the city and talking to whoever was in charge at that time about moving my fence out, making that side yard a little bigger. I didn't have an RV at the time, but I had a work truck that I wanted to be able to protect because we get a lot of break-ins here, which I just recently got broken into again. And my work truck is parked in front of my home because I can't fit it in my driveway. So that's why I wanted to have a side yard or even an extended side yard in order to park my truck there. So then it's either in camera or behind a fence, so it's protected. Anyways, so I talked to whoever was in charge and I asked him if I can move a fence out. He said there's no, he didn't actually say I could, he didn't say I couldn't. He did say, let me look into it. So he did look into it. I met with him again. My house or my houses are plotted out wrong when they built them. So they had to make, I guess, some sort of like reprieve. So the way my house is plotted is I can't get that 10-foot setback from the sidewalk, at least in the corner of my house. If I were to put 10 feet from the sidewalk to a fence, I would have 2 feet of space between the corner of my house and the fence. So it's like impossible to have, you can't meet fire code if you only have that much space. So they made a reprieve. They went 10 foot from the front of the end of the fence to the sidewalk to like, I don't know, maybe 8 or 7 feet. And then it went back as quickly as it could to my neighbor behind me's fence, back to 10 feet. So it was this weird, like angling fence. It just wasn't the greatest, like for backyard use or side yard use, I guess you'd say. So I talked to him and he basically said, I can't give you a permit to move your fence, but you don't need a permit to rebuild your fence. I'm like, okay. I said, but I would want to move my fence and I just want to legally move my fence over. And he's all, Kevin, you don't need a permit to rebuild. He just kept on saying that over again. So kind of hinting to me that go ahead and do the work, but make sure it's not too high, make sure it's looking nice and no one will complain. So, and I moved my fence out. I have between 4 to 5 feet away from the sidewalk. I did call before you dig, before I did my fence, and there's nothing underneath where I dug. There's no lines of any sort of gas, city, phone or cable or anything like that in that area. So I did do that. The way my property is set too, it's a little higher up than,
Oh, you're not out of turn. No, this isn't public comment. Go ahead.
my actual lot is a little higher than the actual sidewalk, or it kind of slopes, everything kind of slopes down. So I did have extra dirt from my backyard when I leveled out my backyard, and I put it on the side there. So I have a small retaining wall, just a couple blocks high, going down the side, planted a few trees, made a nice fence with a double gate. So I could park my work truck back there, which I did for a little while. I didn't use the handicap, like driveway. I went next to that. Like, it kind of looks like it's kind of set up. It's not directly in line with that ADA compliant, but it's next to it, to where I didn't have to go up that particular ramp. I just kind of went up. It's not even a curb. It's one of those drop down roll curbs. Anyways, I parked there for a while, and somebody complained and said that I shouldn't be parked there. So I was in violation, and I got a citation, and that had been quite a few years after I did it. And for whatever reason, I tried to look into it, but no one got back to me. So it kind of just went away. They just never sent me another letter. So then all of a sudden, I would say late last year or mid last year, we got another letter, and I called Michelle about it, and she was very kind and very talked to me about it. And she said there's some busybody in the neighborhood that's basically going around complaining. There had been several other homes, Prospectors, Saxon, that have done the same thing. One of the particular houses on Saxon, which I came to find out, actually got permits to move their fence out and concrete a driveway to use that handicap or ADA access to it. And they still use it to this day to park their vehicles there. They don't park a RV back behind the fence, but they were able to move their fence back. So I think a lot of people saw them and goes, oh, well, if they got it, why can't we do it? And so a lot of them just did it because of that. One across the street from them, there's several down Prospectors that has, there's several Novi and Galaxy that all have done something similar. I didn't concrete mine because I, again, I wanted to be able to have water go through, and I put rock all the way down the side of my house to exactly that reason. Plus concrete's too expensive. Too expensive. Anyways, so the violation I got the violations didn't pertain to me. And I'm like, why am I getting some of these violations when they don't pertain to me, with the whole 50% concrete in your front yard? Yes, my RV's parked back there. I do have a big willow tree in my front yard, and it was kind of got big. It gets big in the springtime, and I couldn't even pull my RV out. My RV hasn't even been out of my house over a year on the side of my house. So I'm like, I have to wait till the fall, if not winter, to when the leaves all fall. I can cut it back and I can get my RV out. And I have yet to been able to do that because of my work schedule and the rain. So I want to comply, and I have been in contact with both of these ladies and about this issue, and we've been talking. I just want to see if we can change that code. The fence, if it looks nice and everyone's taking care of their yards and you're making the neighborhood look good, then I don't think we should be bothered. It's the ones that are like letting their yards die, or that whole side part of their yard that they don't think they should take care of, they let it die. And then our neighborhood just looks like garbage. And I don't want that to happen. And I don't like it when I have to drive by and see that in a nicer neighborhood. Yeah, I think I can't get that 10-foot easement back, like the setback. So I'm hoping we can reprieve that to where I have about 4 to 5 feet all the way down the sidewalk, and I keep it nice looking. But if I were to move my fence back, I'd have to do the same weird shaped fence because I can't get a fire code next to my house.
Thank you. Do we have Zoom?
We do.
While we're doing that, I believe we need to have further discussions, maybe, not just a workshop, but a committee of something with taking a look at, we have easements for purposes, but if there's, like the gentleman just said, Mr. Cooper, that there is no utilities in that area,
Where he put his fence, he said.
okay? No, I'm just saying, if there's no, utilities, is that easement necessary? Because we have had a lot of, setback, mitigation or, you know, we had a lot of it for the KB homes. There was, setbacks that could not be met, so we.
Hello? And that's where the plan development comes in.
Hi, can you hear us?
Yes,
Oh, please state your name and give us your comment.
Evelyn Halbert. Before I comment, I'd like you guys to know that your sound and your mics have been going on and off all night, so it's a little bit hard to follow. My first question had you talking about fences, you're talking about driveways, and mostly you're talking about subdivisions, but there's coding, the zoning you're using, like the R1s, the R2s, most of that is all in the older parts of the town also. And a lot of those older homes have been there for a long time, and they had different zoning requirements when they were built way back when. Now, before, when they changed these things, they have not made them retroactive, and those pre-existing ones were not affected by the zoning changes. My first question is, are you going to force this into these new changes, or are we going to be pre-existing and not be required to do something that was when we did it, when the fence was done or whatever, it was allowed? Second question, public utilities thing. We don't have utility easements downtown where I am. So I don't know exactly how that applies to us, this 10-foot thing, if we don't have easements at all. I don't know exactly how that would apply to us. And the other question I have is on the storm drainage. Downtown is not flat. It's on a bluff. My side of the street is low, the other side of the street is high. The water does not drain equally because of which way it's going, the direction it's going. So I'd like to know how that's going to affect the houses that are not in flat subdivisions to comply with the drainage you were talking about. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. For the grandfathered in, that won't be affected right now. We're going to be having that discussion, and you're welcome to be part of it. For the setbacks, again, there are exceptions or grandfathered in. That most likely will be taken care of case by case, and those grandfathered in most likely will not be affected. I don't know yet. For stormwater, we're talking about on-site retention, and most of it downtown cannot be retained on-site. And you're right, there are unevenness in the streets and roads. Again, that's just the lay of the land. And as we redo streets and roads and storm drains, that should be addressed then. But we were talking about before you came on to have some further discussions, and you can be part of it, to figure out what would be the ideal situation for those who have setback issues, stormwater retention issues. What's the best way to address it to where in the future, new residents will not, they'll know exactly what they can and cannot do. Okay, any other further comments? All right. I'm
Me?
bringing it back. No, for the rest, you already made your comments. Are there any from the council?
I was just wondering, like you said, I think we need to have some kind of a workshop or something where we involve the public and we, look at what the real issues are and how we can address it. Everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to have some type of issues, but I think we need to be able to think it out, see if we need to change our codes, see what, how we can resolve the issues.
So I think what would be fair is for staff and I to have some discussions as to how we can have a constructive discussion with our residents. Reminder that once we make changes, if we discuss the fact that these are only moving forward, then obviously all of the residents now don't get affected, yet they've gotten an opportunity to set precedents for any future residents. Also taking into consideration that future developments will most likely have those planned developments and will have different setbacks and different, lot sizes. And so we'll have to consider, that they will probably have, different regulations set to them. So we want to make sure that we involve as much of our residents as possible. And maybe that happens in a way of a survey or something to that effect, where we can reach a majority of our residents rather than on just a few who may not have an opportunity to join us. Some of it may also be informational workshops that we do, whether it's via Zoom or whether it's a video that we share with everybody, so that some of that feedback can also be received after they've been able to review some of that information.
And it's no, it is, we're not going after any department or the residents. This is something that has to be, I've seen it all throughout.
So what we can do is have those conversations, see what best method is to get feedback from our residents, be able to obtain that feedback and then come back to council. Maybe not with specific recommendations, but with information that we've been able to gather that also allows us time for any of the questions that you may have had, for us to be able to research those and get you the information, and then have a very, good discussion about how we move forward from there.
And I would like to also suggest that we have an opportunity through our website, our city website, so that people can leave comments both in English and Spanish.
Okay.
I just want to make one last point that it is a good thing if you're planning any sort of project in your yard to call building, planning, or code enforcement, and we'd be more than happy to answer your questions at the counter, by email, or by phone. And as kind of a side note, just to make sure that our home audience knows this, oak trees and redwood trees are considered heritage trees and require special permits. Your trees were junk and we don't care about those.
Pine Knot? Oh, no, the sycamores.
The ones you took out,
Okay,
yeah.
shoot. Now I have redwoods and now
Now you're stuck.
I'm stuck with them. Dang it.
And the code doesn't allow willow trees because of the sewer issues.
Oops. Okay, thank you very much. So we have some type of guidance and there's nothing to approve and I appreciate that this has been, people have been addressing this with me for the last 7 years. Thank God it hasn't been the last 12, but, and I've had some specific meetings on it. So thank you for bringing this forward. Thank you, Donna. And thank you for, Michelle, for all you guys do. I really do appreciate it.
But thank you to council for your feedback, and then we'll put a plan together and move forward.
Thanks to public for coming forward. I hope that when we do discuss again, that you are available and we can come up with a right solution. Okay, with that, we're gonna go to staff comments.
So just wanted to share on behalf of our Parks and Rec Department that our activity guide is now available. You can find that online as well as here at our offices. A lot of great classes that we have coming up for all, whether it be aquatics or, different programs that we're starting. So please feel free to come and pick one up, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
before we move on, can I ask you to, our city manager to explain what those pole structures are in Crossroads? Can you explain that?
So what we've been told about those structures is that there's going to be some movement of the electrical lines there. And so this is in the event that one should happen to fall, it does not fall on the street and happen to cause any issues with our residents that are driving by.
That's the Hetch Hetchy. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Jones Cruz.
The only item I have for tonight is it's just nice to see that the roundabout at Crossroads being repaired, so.
It is
Doesn't look
repaired
like
except
Old Bay
for
Route
the-
anymore, so it's looking good.
Councilmember Uribe.
Thank you, Mayor. So I was asked by the American Veterans First organization to share two events that they're going to be having. They're going to be doing a luncheon on March 31st from 11 to 2 p.m. At 3500 Coffee Road. They're going to be talking about issues facing the VA system. So if you're interested in that, contact Shirley, 281-5170. And the other event they want me to highlight is a save the date for National Women Veterans Day event. That's going to be on June 9th. It's going to be at the County Veterans Service Center. So if you're interested in any of that, please contact Shirley. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Barbara Martinez.
I too want to say, thank you to the city for the repair of the, structure at, or statue at, Crossroads in the roundabout, and also asking our residents to please slow down in all this wet weather that we're having. And want to mention that we are having, improved Route 60, bus transportation. It will now provide service to our community center, better access to the community pool and the teen center. And also, it will also make a stop at our public library and just more frequent stops. And this service will, the new service will start on March 5th. And then when you do ride from March 5th through March 18th to celebrate Go Green Weeks, the service will be free during that time. And then we're also going to have a new bus transportation service from Patterson and Riverbank to Scenic Road in Modesto, which has been something that has been very dear to, I know, to most of our hearts with our students that are walking on Roselle and trying to get to Enoch School or any other school in that area. So I'm glad to see that that's finally going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Thank you all for coming in and having your comments. I heard that there's communication. I mean, we have a small but mighty team here at the City of Riverbank. What is the best way to know what our next steps are going to be for folks to follow up?
Once we have a plan put together, we can disseminate that to all of our residents. So social media is definitely going to be one of the easiest ways for people to get information quickly. So if you can follow us on Instagram or on Facebook, we usually try to post two to three things a day. Sometimes you might see things, a lot frequently from us, but we're trying to get out as much information. And then our website is always going to be updated with the information that we have. So that's also going to be a good source of information. That's at www.riverbank.org. So you'll be able to find information there. We do also use our utility newsletter, but that does only come out every other month. But we try to be as informative as we can within that newsletter as well. So I hope that as residents are receiving, whether it's their email notification that the bill's ready through Express Bill Pay, please click on the link for the PDF that shows our newsletter. Don't ignore it. Don't throw it into your junk mail. Please click on that link. And for residents who still receive their bill in paper, we always include a copy of it in there. So please don't throw away those newsletters when you get them.
The City of Riverbank, there's some women who are wanting to start a Seroptimus chapter here. So if you're interested in that, let me know and I can connect you to the right folks. And I am working with an intern from Stanislaus State currently in partnership with the Central Valley Hispanic Chamber to hold a small business boot camp for folks who want to have a business license, and it's only in Spanish. So we're going to connect them with resources, possibly some funding to help them start their businesses. and that should be in May, so I'll keep updating y'all.
Thank you very much. I attended the State of the City for Modesto and was amazed that they received a Helen Putman Award for a program they purchased that allows, as they're holding a meeting, it's translated directly into Spanish. I'd like to see if we could piggyback off of what they have, tie into it one way or the other. And then again, we've talked about it before and we need to look at it. Having everything we write and publish is also available in Spanish. If I'm not mistaken, the first law passed in California was making Monterey the capital. This was a long time ago. I was a midshipman at the time. And the second law was everything written in English would be written in Spanish. And that was, again, a long time ago. So I'd like to start really looking for a service similar to whether it's at least 95% accurate as it's being translated, or even greater, because there is a lot of programs there. We received the Commission on the Aging nominating in our community citizens who are of age, older than me, that we would like to recognize during May. May is Senior Citizen Awareness, and give aware of what contributions they've made to what we do today, how we got here today, and whether it is somebody who gave civil service as well as military service, or women. I don't want to neglect women because they have been the mainstay for a lot of our programs. So please think about it, and I have meet the mayor, meet with me and tell me who you want, and then we'll bring it together and discuss it. I'd like each of the district council members to get from your district who you would like, and we can recognize more than one. I'm that flexible. We've been asked to solicit from the public for the civil grand jury for next year or this year. If you would like to participate, or if you're out there and you would like to participate, please, again, you can contact myself or I don't know, Tammy.
They can call administration. We do have the information
Right.
that we received from this. So that if they can call just the main administration number.
And also we have it on our website.
Correct.
And so if you click on the civil grand jury to come on up, what the minimum requirements, they would like you to do 20 hours or more a month. It's non-paid and you have to pay for your own transportation, but yet you get to park in an open parking lot near the railroad tracks on 8th Street. I know exactly where it is. I'm glad you brought up Route 60. I also have Route 60 and other routes. It's been a long-term time getting the buses changed. And so there are workshops coming on out telling you why we changed the way we did on the bus routes. I do have to talk to Stan RTA. Route 60 stops at Roselle and Patterson and blocks traffic. So we have to figure out a different place where they can park. Because all that does is, as you're making a right-hand turn, you have no vision, and sometimes they have to sit there for a while to meet their on-time departure. So that's something I would like to do, I will do. Oh, and tomorrow starts Women History Month. So take a look at the history of the women. Some of your parents, grandparents have made significant contribution, women, and please thank them. And congratulations to all the women for all the history that you have imparted upon this great land. With that,
State of the city.
Okay, those of you who are interested in State of City, it comes up on the 8th of March at 6:30.
9th.
Oh, 9th of March. Darn, I was gonna have nobody there.
Or they'd all showed up on the 8th, Mayor. So it is
The 9th
March,
of March, I'm
March
sorry.
9th at the community
I was
center.
gonna show up on the 8th.
It's an opportunity for the mayor to highlight all of the great things that the city has done over the past year.
Where is that on the agenda? I'm sorry. Okay. Anything else before I? All right, thank you very much. Item 14.1 is closed session, conference with legal counsel, potential litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9. Number of cases, one potential case. At this time, members of the public may comment on this item for a period no more than 3 minutes. Does anyone from the public wish to comment on this case, which is non-specific? Anyone from Zoom?
Mayor, there's no one on Zoom.
All right, at this time, we're going to close this, we're going to adjourn to closed session. Excuse me, can we finish the meeting? Thank you. You can listen. You ready? The City Council LRA Board meetings reconvened from closed session. Item 15.1, report on closed session. Item 14.1, conference with legal counsel, potential litigation. Direction has been provided to staff. The next regular city council meeting will be held on March 14th, 2023 at 6 p.m. This meeting is now adjourned.